Unity is strength. That is why even many describe unity as the pillar of growth and success. The Tower of Babel was moving so fast and so well until our Creator discovered the strength of the people. The strength of the people was based on unity, and he injected different languages so that he can break the chain of command or unity. And then the people stopped the construction of the Tower of Babel. It is evident even in Cameroon, when we witnessed the Boko Haram insurgency in the northern part of the nation. We came together as one people, one nation. We spoke in one voice, and we said we will contribute our resources and help our soldiers to contain the enemy and push them far away from our land of glory, land of promise, and deep endowment forevermore. Also, we witnessed that in the Bakassi Peninsula, when the crisis in the Bakassi started, we saw how Cameroonians, mothers, fathers, children contributed their resources and spoke as one voice to help our soldiers to contain the enemy and to maintain this territory called Cameroon. But with the Anglophone crisis, it is a different side of the coin. Unity is different in this context. A people united by one common problem, which they describe as marginalization, and now are using the same rhetoric that they are fighting against to fight against each other. Hatred, backbiting, assassination, intimidation, destruction of properties, among other things which plague the Anglophone crisis. Today, it is common to see how Mr. A is attacking Mr. B. Mr. A is denying the existence of a problem. Mr. C is acknowledging the problem but denying how Mr. A is interpreting it. All these are cacophony of the crisis, and we are caught within the web and between the devil and the deep blue sea. The people of Cameroon are all watching anxiously as the Canada-led stock, which was known as the CDN, unfolded, and yet we went in different rhetoric. The truth of the matter here is that nobody can fight marginalization using the same marginalization. If we claim there is marginalization, we must fight against it by not using the same marginalization to attack the people from northwest or southwest or regardless of wherever they find themselves to be. Our forebearers brought in tolerance, peace, unity as a culture of Anglophone. Every Anglophone, bona fide Anglophone, born from the northwest and southwest region, has tolerance, peace, and love. But since the crisis started, we are losing it. The question we should be asking ourselves is, can a united Anglophone in one problem solve the Anglophone problem in division? How ready are Anglophones to resolve the Anglophone problem? This is House of Commons with me, TAH MAI JARVIS. Break. If you are just joining us, you're watching House of Commons. Now, I begin by introducing to you my guest with whom we are going to have a full discussion here today. Joining us in Estonia is Mr. Ngalla. Mr. Ngalla, happy Sunday and a privilege to have you. I don't know if you can get me. Happy Sunday and a privilege to have you. While we are waiting to get connected with Mr. Ngalla, and I'll begin here in the studio. Mr. Njini Elvis, he is the Secretary of Communication for the Popular Action Party, PAP. He's all the way from Yaoundé. Mr. Njini Elvis, a privilege to have you.
It's a privilege, Mr. TAH MAI, and thank you for inviting me to this program. Good afternoon to all viewers of my Major Prime and to all co-panelists who are here with us in the studio. I think it's always a great privilege when we are given this opportunity to come to your platform to be able to discuss issues that we think can help to foster progress, unity, and development as far as the country is concerned. Thank you.
Paddy Assanga, I decided to maintain you. I know you just left Victim 237 because you're always busy and you have a mindset of your own to see that we forge ahead and keep aside our differences and tackle the common problem, which is the Anglophone marginalization. Embattled with so many crises, left Cameroon and still fighting for the unity of Cameroon. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday to you, very young, brilliant journalist as I discovered on my media prime. I want to congratulate you guys for the good work we are doing, despite the threats that are coming from left and right to your regard. You are the people to represent us, not us representing you, because we are not living here. You wear the shoes, you know where it hurts, and I think the time has come for us to pave the way that you people can sit down and talk with all the victims and everybody who's a stakeholder at home. I like what has happened in Canada. You know, I am one of those people who think that the Cardinal had the solution to the Anglophone crisis, because when we have a problem, we have to look at the problem from a holistic perspective and ask ourselves certain questions. Why is there ghost towns in certain areas and not in certain areas? Why is it that Limbe is not observing ghost town? Why is it that Kambe doesn't? So different communities have different problems, and we should sit down and take a memoranda from every community. That can only be done by people like you, not some of us who are sitting in the diaspora. So thanks for welcoming me, and I've planted the decoration.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ngalla Sop, I don't know if you're connected. Happy Sunday to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can get you right on.
Okay, that's good. I can hear you too. So, thank you very much for inviting me to the program. This is the second time, and it's an honor, and I want to extend my gratitude and appreciation to your team for the wonderful work they're doing. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Right on.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I cannot hear you.
Yeah, but I can get you. Right on. I can get you. Right on.
Right.
I don't know the problem, but I'm sure our technical team is resolving it. I can get you. I don't know why you can't get me. I can get you.
Maybe you go to another person.
Why we struggle to shoot? I can get you.
To my family back home. My gratitude and feelings for all the doctors.
Okay, thank you. Here in the studio, we also have Mr. Innocent. Mr. Innocent, a privilege to have you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. And I'm always happy. I'm happy particularly when it's my elder brother, Paddy Assanga, because I've actually been following him in other channels and I admire him a lot. So at least I'm happy that it's a privilege for me that I'm in the same panel with him.
Okay, thank you very much. And of course, here in the studio, we have the CEO of Hunamu Dondu. He is a political commentator, very objective and critical. Samah Mungwa, you're welcome to the program.
Jarvis, maybe I correct you for the last time. Samah Abang Mungwa. That's the right order of the name. Samah Abang Mungwa. Thank you, Jarvis, and I think I'm exceptionally elated that I'm sharing the same platform with a very lucid Paddy Assanga today. Different from the Paddy Assanga with whom we exchange
in WhatsApp forums. That's a different thing. That's the marketplace.
I'm very happy that it's a pleasure that we are meeting today, and I think I want to appreciate him for his steadfastness and his resolute attitude as far as his ideas and his objectives are concerned. I think what we need to move this country forward is people with convictions, people who have built their convictions and they can die for them and they stand for them. I think we are going to give in our own little contribution to enlighten and to animate the political discourse that characterizes our polity at the moment. Once again, thank you, and I hope by the time we leave, the audience would have had a good run for their money.
I'll begin with you, Paddy Assanga, briefly. When we look at the Anglophone conflicts, I want to see the people from the Northwest and Southwest region, because today anybody who goes to an English-speaking school says they're Anglophones. How ready are the people from the Northwest and Southwest region, ethnically, ready to resolve this conflict with much division that we see on social media, TV platforms, jangle houses, and the rest?
You said a house that is divided doesn't stand. That's what I deduced from what you were saying.
Yeah.
And I think that Anglophones agree on the fact that we have all been marginalized. There is a problem. We should come together, sit down and talk. And this spirit of coming together, sit down and talk, emanates from, has a historical connotation, and it has to do with our living together with the Igbos. You have to go back and ask yourself why we decided to separate from Nigeria and why we decided not to be with the Igbo people. And when that decision was taken, we were marginalized as a people. We were marginalized as a people, and our forebears, uneducated as they want to call them today, because people call themselves doctors, they cannot come together and put themselves and then work as a common front. You cannot, it doesn't work the way we have been doing it all this time. I can remember that when this thing started, Mr. Aya, he created AEC2. The people, he proposed AEC3. The people who sabotaged it were those of us in the diaspora. I can call their names Magbalata and Tapang Ivo because they did not found their name on it. I was in the diaspora. I picked up that thing and said, yes, we need an AEC3. They sabotaged the whole thing, that the list was not inclusive, and that was as early as the 9th of December 2016. And he made a more inclusive list, putting the names of some dignitaries and some people also in the diaspora and all sorts of things. Those who did not find their name in that list,
also
they went and rubbished it. That's how the initiative of AEC3 of Mr. Aya died a stillbirth. It did not end there. Dr. Monzo, who is an expert in conflict resolution in other countries, he came now with an Anglophone dialogue forum. That is a preparative meeting for an eventual national dialogue. And he was going on every platform telling our people that if we are not ready, the day they will call us, we will not be ready. We went behind him. He went to parliamentarians, went to chiefs, went to the cardinal. That is when the cardinal endorsed the idea and said, let's make it bigger and bring in everybody. Monzo was delegated to go and meet the chiefs, parliamentarian from CPDM, because you cannot forget the fact that we might be of the opposition, but you must also accept that Atanganji has the same right like you, and he has the right to his own opinion. And it is only when you will bring Atanganji in a room where you sit with him and you tell him what you have in mind that you win the sympathy of the people. But for now, he is appointed. He is entitled to his appointment. It is the way it is. So we need that forum where everybody, the representatives of those who are dying in the bushes, the families of all Amba boys should be seated on that table. The families of victims and those who want to come from the diaspora, you can come as observers. Because no school, our children have been going to school in the diaspora. Nobody has lost his job or a car burnt down because of the crisis. So the people who are directly concerned are you people at the home front. For me, I like what is happening in Canada because I will tell you what it is.
Okay.
What happened in Canada is capitulation. Ayabacho said he will behead Agobala. They rubbished the Anglophone General Conference. Fominki was there. They were threatening Fominki when Funky. Yes. They were threatening him when this incident happened in that. It was Amber who was threatening him, not Paddy. So when they go to Canada and sit with him, do you think that they are sitting to say that they want to separate Cameroon? How possible is that? For me, they will not accept things like that. But what happened is this. Those who went there, those Amber, Ayabacho, they are not going there at their own will. There are other things that they are not telling you. Can you remember that they created an alliance with Biafra? Where is the leader of Biafra today?
It's under custody.
Thank you.
Legal charges.
I'm giving you more information. 1 week ago, about 30 Cameroonians who called themselves ambassadors, there was a raid at a refugee camp. They picked about 30 of them and are afraid that some here are already in Yaoundé because of that alliance things. So you should understand what is happening. Then a certain Mangang will be tried on the 12th.
Yeah.
So you cannot, you see, the cards are crumbling and people are looking for subterfuge. Don't forget that people are lying in their grave. And also don't forget that the Cameroon government has also tried members of the Cameroon army. That gives you the leverage now to go after them.
Okay.
So that is the situation. So these people who are abroad have capitulated. You people should put yourself together and continue the fight so that we should get at least one Cameroon in the federal system. Okay. Thank you, Jarvis.
Njini Elvis, when you look at the dynamics, how ready Anglophones, Paddy raised an important issue that government Anglophone ministers from the Northwest and Southwest region have the same right as those who are of the opposition and those who are advocating for a restoration of federalism. Now, with all this cacophony of division, of segregation, how ready are we?
Well, Mr. Tamai, maybe I will just pick up from where Paddy ended. I'll be adding something just to say that when you ask how ready the Southern Cameroonians are, what I would tell you is that one thing we should begin by noticing, by taking note of, is the fact that no one of us is better than every one of us. So we are all equals, you see. And when I say equals, it means that what? Like you were rightly saying, be it those people from the Southern Cameroons who are within the regime, who work with the government in place, or be it those you call federalists or whosoever, we are all people from the Southern Cameroons. And when it shall come to dialogue, we must accept to be tolerant. We must accept to all these people with their divergent views, such that we sit together and discuss and come to a compromise. Because when we talk about the crisis today, the very first thing that nobody will deny is the fact that we all have a common cause. We are fighting a cause which is genuine, which is common, and nobody can dispute that fact. But now the problem is just at the level of the fact where many people think that, or some people think that, the moment the procedure to be used is not one that comes from A, then he doesn't agree with it. Some people think that if the idea doesn't come from them, they do not buy to that idea, and that is where the problem lies. You cannot be fighting, like somebody said at the beginning of this program, you cannot be fighting marginalization by practicing the same marginalization. You cannot be fighting, permit me say, hate speech by promoting the same hate speech yourself, and that is the real difficulty we are facing today as Anglophone Cameroonians, whereby when some people do not agree with you, instead of sitting down so you exchange views and see where that is the problem. The moment they disagree with you, they now think that they should tag you names and then say how maybe you have been paid off or you have been this, you have been that, which is not the case. And remember that when we talk about the famous resolutions, I think 1350 of the UN, you know, at the end of the day, the UN gave to our people two limb options to gain independence by joining, simply because room was given to some of our forebears to agree, and they could not agree. And unfortunately, about 61 years after, our fellow brothers are trying to repeat history. And you know, when history doesn't please you, It is for you never to repeat the same history again. But we are not happy with what happened 60 years ago, but we are trying to do even worse than what happened before by totally not wanting to sit together as a people, agree and prepare ourselves for dialogue, because the truth is that whether we accept it or not, a time will come when we shall have to sit and dialogue. But we cannot go to the dialogue table when each team or each faction is coming with its own views and ideas, pretending to talk for the same people. We must sit as a people, converge together, agree, and if possible now, in fact, not even a matter of possibility, when we sit and agree, then we now put in place a team, a nucleus that we know can go out there and represent the people of the former British Southern Cameroons. And that is why, like Paddy Assanga, I will still say that what happened in Canada to me was already to me a very positive step. Okay. And we may not be very, we cannot be too authoritative as of now to say what will be the outcome, but we hope that with what is began the other day, I want to think that things should move in that same line, and that many more should come onto the table, and then we talk as a people within ourselves, amongst ourselves, and then we see what happens. Remember that after the AACs 1 and 2, I think this is the only third possibility that Anglophone communities have had, where we had at least a number of people gathering together. So we just want to hope that
different opinions.
Exactly. So we want to pray and hope that many more should be able to join in, and then we talk as brothers round the table, agree and put in place that team, such that when time comes for dialogue, we should be able to know that these people are going out to air out the ideas and aspirations and expectations of the people of the former British Southern Cameroons.
Mr. Innocent Barozil, how ready are Anglophones? You were in Moya the other day, and you live in Bonaberry, where most of these IDPs are. You've left Moyuka, moved to Moya, and now Douala. How ready are we?
Yes, the fact is that to support what the other panelists said, actually, we can hold meetings. But the main problem, why we are here now, because I remember when Ayok Seseko Tabe, when he was still out, he made a statement that he cannot kill the same people that he wants to lead. And it was only after he was arrested, although before he was arrested, there was some mix-up. Military people were killing people in the southwest and northwest, but not to this level. But immediately he was arrested. All these meetings that I are saying, Ayok Tabe was out for secession. Barrister Agwabala was out for federalism. All of them need to sit. Look, there is no way, so far as Ayok Tabe is in prison, there is no way Anglophones that can, all that Mark Barata, all those people in the Europe, all of them they are answerable to Ayok Tabe. They know in them that is a leader. But when the leader is not there, anybody will still rise up now that I'm a leader. You have the Amazonian Defense Force, the Amazonian Restoration Forces, all those now. But if Ayok Tabe is released, we can sit together and everybody now brings his opinion. Those who are for federalism should tell us and the Anglophones why they prefer federalism. And myself, I'm for federalism. Yes, but so if they invite me there, I will tell you the reason why I'm for federalism. Those who are for secession, if they can convince us, then from there we know what to move ahead. Because to me, the Anglophones are ready. Because the Anglophones have been marginalized. And there is nothing that the government that we can do without the government. Because all the type of meetings, if the government of Cameroon does not decide that, I was in Moyoka, 2017, October 2017. The commandant of Moyoka stood on to us that we should not march. We went and stayed in the houses. The next day, the military entered Malende, serious beating, serious flogging. They were beating people for what? Nothing. Just because to me, when Donald Trump was being installed as the president about 6 years ago, Donald Trump, as he was being installed as the president, people were outside rioting. Everybody has the right to protest. But when you want to protest in Cameroon, they tell you that it's not so. What, in a nutshell, everything that we are doing, the government of Cameroon needs to know very well that in 1961, there was Federal Republic of Cameroon. About 10 years after, in 1972, it was changed. And in about 1984, it was also changed to Republic of Cameroon. In 61, nobody died when Cameroon was the federal system. And even if they still come to federal system now, nobody will die. The constitution has been changed many times, but the government of Cameroon is one and indivisible. But when it comes to change the constitution, they change it to suit themselves. Even the Anglophones who are in the government cannot tell the government the truth.
Okay. There is a message here for Senior Barrister Achu Julius. I will read it in the course of the program. He's following the program. And of course, I want to get to you from Estonia. Are you getting me now, Mr. Ngalla?
Yeah, Mr. Ngalla. Yeah, I can get you. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can get you. I want you to, how ready are Anglophones? I don't know. Can you get me?
No.
Yes. Oh, so right on. How ready are Anglophones?
Okay. All right, so just a minute, please, because I can't see you. I can't see the screen. All right, so thank you for giving me the floor, and I really appreciate all that has been said there, and that are sitting on the panel. I want to say that it's because of you guys that we that are abroad that we are able to achieve what we can achieve, because without you there we are absolutely nothing. So I want to thank you all for all that you are doing, all that you are saying. Don't be quiet, say what you want to say how you want to say. May God bless all of you on the panel. So going to your question right now, how ready are Anglophones to solve this problem, right? I think that Anglophones by themselves cannot sort out this problem. They can't. They can't. The Anglophones have made a lot of proposals to this government to sort out this problem, but nothing is being done. Nothing has been done. Yeah, there has been decentralization, but is that what the Anglophone need? No. All right, so let's try to break it down. Who are those involved in giving, let's say, the state some kind of idea on how to sort out? First, we have the ordinary man. The ordinary man in the streets, they are very ready to sort out this problem. They are absolutely very ready. Why? Because number one, they are not absolutely joining this armed fighting. You can see it. They are not absolutely massively joining to fight the government. They are not doing that. Number one. Number two, they don't have any animosity against the French-speaking that are living in their own zone, or they are going to the French zone to be like animalistic against them, right? That's the number 2 point. Number 3, between the Anglophones themselves, Northwest and Southwest, there is no tension, there is no pressure between the ordinary living people. Though some people at the top, they are trying to do things to like pressurize, to make this tension exist between the people. So you can see that the ordinary man is absolutely ready to. Now, who are the second part? The second part are those who say they are doing a liberation fight, right? These ones, they are absolutely not ready to sort out this problem. They aren't, because if they were ready to sort out this problem, they wouldn't be looting their own people. You wouldn't be busting into somebody's house, asking them to give you their phone and money. You won't be killing them on the streets and leaving. You won't be shooting somebody on the street and sitting there waiting for the person to die before you leave. You won't be doing that. Okay, you go online, you see a lot of them, the leaders, they say, let's do drafting here and there every day. Don't draft to this person, draft to me. And the money is all coming to them. Number one question. Baby Mata who died in Mafia, how much did they use their draft money to help this lady? Number two, Baby Caroline that just died not long ago. God bless her soul, and may her soul rest in peace. And may God give her parents the strength to keep on living, right? How much did this the draft money that they have that is sent to help this baby Caroline's parents? What have they been doing to help those that were killed in Garbo or in Kumba? If they say that the people who killed these children in Kumba are not their people, right? How much are they done to help? What are they really doing to help? Nothing, absolutely nothing. Then you go to Garbo, they didn't do anything, right? Then you go online, you see this guy is I'm the leader, and he will be like insulting the other one, insulting his mother and sisters and so on, and then the other one is insulting the other. So where is the cohesion? There is no cohesion, right? So all of these things, just briefly, we all know what's going on. It shows that because if these guys were ready to fight for the Anglophones, they will keep all this their egoistic feeling behind. They will think of doing something to come together, to
look at each other like brothers and say, no, let's do this thing. It's for us all. Because clearly, the Anglophones are in a serious problem in Cameroon. There's discrimination. It started long ago from Foncha. Foncha tried his best. Foncha tried, but there was nothing he could do. And discrimination continued under Biya's government. So they should look at countries like South Africa, where there was this apartheid, genocide. Yeah, there are people who will betray you, right? They will betray the system. They are trying to like fight for. But in the nutshell, the majority has to win. But we don't have the majority of these so-called fighters to stand up for justice, for truth.
Thank you.
They're only looking maybe for the own pockets. So the last point, let me just say the last point here. The last point is the state. The state has absolutely failed to resolve this problem. The culprit of this problem comes from the state. And if the state is not ready to stand up to solve out this problem, then there's no way that Anglophone can solve out this problem. Because if Cameroon is bilingual country, it means the state is Anglophone as well. And if the state is refusing that it's not Anglophone, then what do we have? How can we solve out this problem? You don't have a president that for 40, 50 years, he has not been able for once to address me in my own language that I can understand. What sort of thing is that? How can I feel like I'm a Cameroonian?
Okay.
Right? I don't feel like a Cameroonian.
We'll be coming back to you.
So, in the nutshell. Okay, thank you very much.
Samah Abang Mungwa, you listened to Mr. Ngalla. He painted the picture on, he split it into 3 categories. You are a psychologist. He said the people, the ordinary people on the street are ready, and that's why you don't see them attacking or joining full-handedly to pick up arms, and that the separatist leaders, those who have picked up arms, are not ready, and the state are not ready. So what can you make of his interpretation? You are a psychologist, and also maybe what the other members have said here.
Let me just chip in a word of correction. I'm a teacher of philosophy, not psychology.
Yeah, teacher of philosophy.
I'm a teacher of philosophy, and I think I should cue in from where Mr. Ngalla ended, and I think I buy into some of his ideas that the Anglophones are not ready. Because your question, which is our topic for today, has 3 key catching words there. Readiness, the degree of readiness, the Anglophones, and the Anglophone crisis. When you ask how ready, that's where I would come in to say the Anglophone is not ready. The Anglophone generally as a people, they are not ready. They are not yet ready. Their state of readiness, to me, is still not adequate. Why do I say so? The Anglophone wants the problem to be resolved, but his state of preparedness, readiness, is not yet optimal. I'll give you one reason for that. The Anglophone, as a person in Cameroon, all of us agree here on this platform, and I'm happy. On a certain 12th of November, the head of state of this country spewed it out unconsciously in Paris during the Paris Peace Forum. Spewed it out unconsciously that there was a project of assimilation which failed. That alone should tell you the mind of the Anglophone. So we agree that there is this problem of assimilation which has metamorphosed into a war. Has the state openly, honestly, sincerely, and overtly acknowledged that problem and say, okay, this is the problem and this is how we intend to solve it? No. We have had the state do so much of the wrong things to solve an existing problem. I hear people cite every day that the state has done 34 things. It has granted all the concessions of the teachers and the lawyers, but it has not addressed the core issues of truth and sincerity, which are the foundations of the growth of the Anglophone.
Let me cue you.
And that is where I come in, before you cue in Jarvis. The fact that the state has not admitted, there can be no proper reconciliation without honest admittance of fault and guilt before you start begging for forgiveness. The fact that the state has not openly admitted and shown sincerity and honesty to tackle the problem, it still keeps some Anglophones in a position of suspicion, where they think that we are not yet ready, because this government too is not yet ready. That is where I tie in with what Mr. Ngalla said. The unreadiness of the government is perpetuating the unreadiness of the Anglophone. So if I were to answer you from that perspective, to what extent or how ready are Anglophones? Anglophones would not have sacrificed so much lives, property, well-being, and identity. They would not have sacrificed so much for 4 or 5 years only to realize a maintenance of the status quo.
Thank you.
And that is where the Anglophone will be resolute to say if this crisis has to be solved the regime way, then we are not yet ready. If this crisis must be solved in such a way that we return to pre-2016, if you have read, I'm sure Paddy is from Germany, so he must have flirted with Hegel and maybe Karl Marx. In every period in the history of mankind, a transformation always comes from a conflict. That brings us what we call the concept of human dialectics, where there is a thesis, an antithesis, and a projection to a synthesis. And that synthesis means a progression. We step up now from where we were before. That is where I think, where we are getting in wrong. Where we think that resolving the Anglophone crisis is simply a return to pre-2016, where we were, without making the necessary adjustments, without changing the form of the state, without changing the method of governance, without looking at the mode of governance and the modus of, and I should say, the modus operandi of those who govern us. We can't make those adjustments. Then I'm sure the hardcore Anglophone, who has been a victim for 61 years, is like not yet ready. Let me come again, Jarvis. Unfortunately, we are talking of a war situation, and in every war situation, an economy is born. They call that the war economy. Go to Ekona, which is typically a farming community, cocoa and oil and whatever, palm oil. Young boys who before 2016 were beggars, who would stand at Ekona roundabout and hustle you for a meal for 1,000, for 500, and they call you grand frère. Are the ones now with the guns, and are the ones now controlling the cocoa farms of the farm owners. And they even dare you to step your feet into your farm. They now control the economy of the town. Before you come to harvest, you pay tithes. Before you come to buy, you pay tithes. Before you sell, you pay tithes. They call it tithes, contributions, whatever. If we look at that category of thousands of them across the Northwest and the Southwest as Anglophones, how ready are they to let go the benefits and the advantages that they are making out of this war? It becomes difficult. Jarvis, as I left my house and I was driving from Mayor Street to mile 18 to start coming here, I saw a white military Hilux car stop somewhere where young boys are illegally selling illicit fuel. And they were there to collect their daily routine offerings from those boys, 1,000 francs each. And they do that morning, afternoon, evening. The gendarme vehicle stops and collects. The police vehicle stops and collects. The military vehicle stops and collects. Some other group in civilian with guns, they stop and collect. You imagine how much money they milk out of the system. A crisis that has created an economy for people who make so much money out of it. You permit me to give you these two anecdotes. 2 years ago or thereabouts, I went to Yaoundé and I visited a friend with whom we were in Boya, who has migrated to Yaoundé and is a principal in a very popular Anglophone school around Etugebe there. And he took me around to show me the campus. I narrated this story here on this platform to Leo and to Dr. Nick. He took me around and they showed me a foundation which had just been commenced. And they told me that the proprietor or the proprietors of the school is just praying that this your crisis should continue for the next 2 years so that she can raise that other story building. That tells you, and behold, the owner of that school is from Manu Division, an Anglophone. That tells you how ready, as you ask, some people can be, and how some people are so much unready that this crisis should end because of that economy of war. Generally, Paddy, this is where I would support you very well. A resolution of this Anglophone crisis, whichever way, would lead to an obsoleteness of some people who have positioned themselves. It will mean possibly a renovation of the political class, and which will mean a replacement of those who have positioned themselves as elites within the government, or elites within the so-called civil society, or elites within the Amazonian Fund. Which means that, and that is why everybody is struggling to pull the blanket to their own side, to make sure that for as long as the crisis persists, they stay at the forefront and are the mouthpieces and the elites of the Anglophone community. That is the degree of readiness. And that is why I would end by saying, generally speaking, in as much as Anglophones want the crisis to end, like a student who wants an exam and is preparing for an exam, but as the date of the exam approaches, the student is not yet ready by virtue of what is expected. Anglophones want peace, they want the crisis to end, but psychologically, in terms of readiness, it is still far-fetched.
Paddy Assanga, you got what Mr. Ngalla said, that people, you cannot claim to be protecting the people by storming into their homes, kidnapping them, extorting money from them, and that those faction of people are not ready, and that the government in itself not ready, but the common man on the street is ready to resolve this conflict. So how do we reconcile these three positions now?
Of course, it is common knowledge that the common man is always ready to live in peace and go about his daily activities. Only people who have vested interest in the economic of war, as Mr. Mangwa just said, are those people standing, are obstructing that peace should come, or that things should come back to normalcy. Remember that in a situation of war like this one, there are lots of budgets that are money change, a lot of money change hands from state budget and then from armed groups and so on and so forth. So don't expect those people to want to give away. So the common man has always been ready because he wants to continue to live his life in peace without getting any harassment. But this is where the problem is how ready we can be. The truth is that Anglophones have sold their rights to people whom they don't know, because they think that everything that comes from the diaspora is good, that everything that we out there, it is infused science because of the little kids' salaries that we get, and then we try to help our families back home. No. This thing was hijacked by people who have no leverage, no understanding of the situation on the ground. And they decided that they were going to sit abroad and create groups. I'm happy that Bala made his friend Fontaine back. That's the real leadership. The problem we have today is that of leadership of the current wave of crisis that was ignited in 2016. Remember what they said about people? They have vilified people for nothing. Even Ayuk Tabe's people, their own people are saying that he should, people whom he fabricated, say he should die in prison. And that is the type of people you think that they'll come here and lead you guys. You guys should get yourself ready rather than expect people like us. We are just messengers of Cardinal Tumi's initiative.
Do you refuse or disagree with this set of people who say the hijack has been on twofold? That the Anglophones who pick up arms have hijacked it, and that government officials, Anglophones whom you said have a right to, have hijacked it because they were the ones who said there was no Anglophone crisis, and they were
Jarvis,
a commission was created for them to go and solve the same crisis that they said there's no Anglophone crisis.
That's how government functions. When you will be in power someday, those of us of the opposition, we will not like to get power. Everybody wants to do with the benefits of power. That one, it is common knowledge. Yes, but this is the dichotomy in this thing. Anglophones have two problems. The problem of marginalization that has been diluted with armed conflict. People are picking up arms, harassing their own people. Whereas they said they were going to fight the military. Whereas, by doing so, they shift the issue. You cannot push the government to the corner. The government's problem, priority, doesn't become, it's no more the Anglophone thing, it's to fight separatists, who are a loud minority. That's where we find ourselves. So we have two problems. We have to sit down, those of us who are looking for peace, we sit down and come up with a solid memoranda that carries the weight of everybody who is at the home front. And if those who are picking arms, they say they will fight to the last man standing, let them come home and fight. Ayabacho should leave Norway. J. Carl is younger than me. He can come to and fight. Why is it other people's choice? If Carlson Anyangwe and the rest are talking about fighting our boys, they have children who are of fighting age. Some of their children, some of those professors, old people, they have children who are older than me. They can send their children to the ground. Mangang is buying guns and sending to people. Let Mangang take her daughter and send her in the bush. She can go and be cooking for those boys.
They are afraid that these people can be arrested upon even arriving.
Okay, you are afraid that people will be arrested, but you say you are sending other persons to go and die on your behalf, but you are afraid of arrest. Massa.
Njini, we'll be coming back to Paddy Assanga. I have a follow-up question. I'm sure that will come from Meche Ashu Julius, who is watching us. I'm sure it will be addressed. You both will answer that. Njini Elvis, our political parties and of the Anglophone expedition, we have 3 of these political parties. We have the PAP, we have the SDF. When we talk about their chairpersons come from these restive regions. We have also the CPP of Kawala. Yes. But when we look at how ready are they, one may not be committing a fallacy to say that even the so-called Anglophone political party leaders, elites are not ready, because we've not seen a come together of these 3 parties to see how they can join civil society organization and move forward, because they are the legal representatives. These political parties duly registered.
No, that's not true. That's not true, because Dr. Monzo contacted the leader of all political parties.
Let him take you do it for
that one should be clear.
No, let him.
And I know that the College of Conveners of Anglophone.
No, I will follow up that with you. Yeah. I will follow up that with you to show you why I'm not saying it's true or not. I said, will you agree?
Yeah, Mr. Tamai, what I will tell you is that when you talk about the political parties whose leaders come from those particular two, exactly like my national president. I want to think, let me talk particularly for the PAP, for instance. I would tell you that we are very much ready, given that even my party itself has gone even towards other political party leaders of the same 2 regions that you are talking about, to see how we could work together in the synergy. Because if I want to talk about the PAP particularly, I will tell you that as it now stands, what we have as an objective or a priority at the level of the PAP is first and foremost to see into it that there is a return to normalcy in that part of the country. That's why we took it as a stance not to partake, for instance, in anything elections or whatever thing, because we think that we cannot be going to campaign to people who are in the bushes, people you don't even know where to find them in the first place. So our priority first and foremost is to see into it that there is a return to normalcy in those 2 regions. Then it's only with that we can now think of maybe whether we can now go in for any form of elections or whatever thing. And like you talk about readiness with other parties, I still say the PAP, for instance, has gone towards the other political leaders you are talking about. And I want to think, and I will tell you that there are several meetings that are being held at the background or discussions that are underground to see how we can work towards that. But now it takes me back again, still back to our topic of how readiness, to tell you that at one point in time, one thing that kills us Anglophones are our very selves. Okay. Because at one point in time, people are so egoistic, people are so self-centered, to the point where, like I always like to say, some people are of the opinion that if anything needs to be done, if it doesn't come from them, if they are not the persons taking the lead, then it is better it doesn't happen. That is one very unfortunate thing that I personally have noticed and witnessed with our own very people. And to add to something Paddy said, which I was about to get to, our brothers of the diaspora, I'm skipping out the issue of political parties. Our brothers of the diaspora, they should not think, because that's the impression they have given the common man, that when you are of the diaspora, automatically you are smarter than any other person, and so any idea that comes from you, every other person must accept it. The moment you disagree with anybody of the diaspora, then you are a black leg, you are this, you are that. No. They
send people to come and kidnap you and kill you.
Exactly. So one thing I'm saying here is this: when we talk about the readiness of our people, it is not like the facts are not there. No. I started this program by saying that our people have a genuine cause they are fighting for. The facts, historically or otherwise, are present, but the problem is the people to actually represent us when the time comes to be able to speak. Because some people, we have noticed, are actually fighting not to serve, they are fighting for position. People are fighting we know of people who have even declared themselves presidents already for a republic that doesn't yet exist. And that is where the real problem is. People who are fighting for positioning, people who are fighting to be taken note of, and not actually to serve the people. And so I want to come back to the topic to insist on the fact that what our people, be they those of the diaspora or wherever, they should know that no matter what happens, there is no way this problem can be genuinely solved if we do not sit as a people while taking into consideration first and foremost the people who are on the ground, because those are the people who feel the exact pinch of the crisis we are talking about. And TAH MAI JARVIS, I'll be dropping by simply reassuring you again that when we talk about political parties like you asked, I want to tell you that the political parties are working towards resolving the problem, but all I can say here for now is we should, for instance, maybe follow what happened in Toronto the other day and see how officially we can all come together under the common canopy and talk as one person. It should no longer be a matter of the PAP or the SDF or the CPP. It should no longer be a matter of an IG or whatsoever thing, but it should be a matter of Southern Cameroonians sitting together as brothers and sisters to talk together and then see how we can resolve this issue, especially when the time for dialogue comes. And just to add, our brother here says something about the government and preparedness and all whatnot. I want to say we should not be fooled by the fact that the regime in Yaoundé doesn't talk about dialogue doesn't mean that they are not preparing for it too. At the background, there are strategies they could be preparing already. Maybe they are even set already, but they keep playing the game that we are playing too. So we should not fool ourselves with that, and that's why I keep insisting. It is not like we do not have the facts. The facts are there. We have a case that we can defend, but the problem is who represents. And that's why I say with the hypocrisy we find in our own people, you will discover people who are ready to even go out and spoil the case if their names do not feature on the list of those who represent our people. That is the unfortunate thing we have noticed with our own very brothers, that they have a case that is good, but there are people who will prefer that everything goes down the rail for as long as their names do not feature. Why? Because like I said, they are fighting for positioning and not to serve the people.
Innocent, we are in a conflict, and you said it's only when Siseko is released, then we can talk about the fact that this conflict can move to a better end. We have people in prison like Mancho who never took up arms, and as we've seen, a lot of people who were arrested during the early days of the conflict. And why do you think that it's only when Ayaba, Siseko Ayok is released and that this can be resolved? Don't you see that maybe we should first of all come up, those of us or diaspora and the rest come up and team up and say, okay, these have a common agenda and idea like that is brought on the table and it's trashed?
Okay, like Mr. Paddy Assanga said, many people are praying that Ayok Tabe should not come out from prison. It's just like when the cat is away, mice, all of them will be struggling to be king.
The question now is who appointed him leader of the Anglophones?
When this thing started, everybody knows that they came together and they appointed him a leader of the secessionists, those who want the Cameroon to divide. Everybody knows that. And those who are praying, it's just like we come in a group, you are the president, I'm the vice. Automatically, when you are not there, I'm the one controlling. So I'm praying that you should never come back. That is what I say, because you know that miserably, if he's released today, all those powers and all those boys who are in the bush, most of them are paid allegiance. Mr. Paddy Assanga said, Anglophones sold their right to those who do not know. When lawyers were flogged in the Northwest, Barrister Agobala, they accepted to dialogue, to show that they are ready for dialogue. But at the end, because they do not do what the government wants, the government arrested them and locked them up. That was when now Siseko, and because SCNC started since about 6 years ago. But yet, they were not carrying, they did not carry arms. They were writing petitions to the UN.
I don't want to cut you short, but I just want to clear the air. Do you know that Siseko has worked with the system and it's Tasang who fabricated Siseko and Tasang are not talking in prison? Do you know that? The letters are there. So, Siseko is not a saint. Tasang who fabricated Siseko is not in terms with him. Ask the question. The question you should be asking is why. When you get the why, you find the solution.
Okay, yes. So what I'm trying to say is that I know that Siseko has worked with the system. So now, but the fact is that because if you look at it, 1961, Federal Republic of Cameroon, they went to the Fuman Conference, gave positions that when the Prime Minister is Anglophone, the president is Francophone, Prime Minister will be Anglophone, and the second in command. They changed that in 1972. The Anglophones did not pick arms. They were still trying to dialogue. We show that they are always ready to dialogue. But the government, the worst thing even came. The government came around 1984 and changed from United Republic of Cameroon to the Republic of Cameroon, a name which the Republic got when they were having their independence, which automatically shows that they have already cut out, sent out the Anglophones that we don't need to again in 1984. But the Anglophones knew that. Those who were educated knew that, but yet they were still dialoguing. When the lawyers came in 2016, because of the OHADA law, which was supposed to be translated, was only in French, it's a French system of law, they said translate it to English. The Minister of Justice vehemently refused. And when they decided, oh no, it's only Federation that will defend the Anglophone legal system, they were flocked, seriously. People, parents were flocked. But yet, they still came for dialogue. Agwabala, who was the president of the consortium, it did not command people that they should hold arms. And those who are in the bush now, there is no person who is supporting the Federation as ask anybody to carry arms. But yet, so what I'm trying to say is that if Ayok Tabe, all this dialogue, if Ayok Tabe is released today, most of those people in Europe, Mark Barata and most of those people, they will go, in short, their place will no longer.
So the Federalists should not be released too?
No, the Federalists.
We are only getting Ayok Tabe. Why not all arrested should be released?
What I'm trying to say is that, first, they need to release everybody. But I'm trying to say that for dialogue to take place, because Ayok Tabe is the leader of separatists, and they are the ones in the bush.
Prof. Samah, let me read this coming from Professor Archie Julius. Good afternoon, Jarvis, great panelists, and My Media Prime Television. Let me start by saying welcome to my brother, the Jacobin man, Paddy Assanga. Anglophones are for peace and have never said no to peace. If it is those who claim to be Ambazonians who are against the peace we all want. In any case, we cannot have representative capacities if we have not been voted by the people. All those so-called meetings of various schools of thought will never solve the peace initiative. These groupings never receive any mandate from the people. Those groupings are so diametrically opposite in ideology, in approach, and in methodology. We need to get to our democratic roots by convening these groupings, associations, political parties in order to seek the support and mandate of the people. In this wise, their decision will bound the people. Encouraging these groupings will lead to the failure, like the unilateral created groups like the TUMI Group, AAC, SCNC, IG, ADF, ARF, etc. How can we know who is who without electing 8 million Anglophones without election? 8 million Anglophones cannot sit in one place to discuss and agree. We had a union through political parties and not through little groupings. Do you agree with Mr. Ashu?
If that is Big Brother Barrister Archie Julius, then I am flabbergasted.
Yes, it's from Barrister Archie Julius.
If he expects that it should only be through constituted elections, legitimacy is not only gained through elections. That one you should know. And that is where I may come in with my co-panelists. Ayok Tabe became the face of this revolution, not because he was elected, but he gained a certain degree of legitimacy. And
from his ranks.
And Anglophones saw him. Paddy said he was fabricated. He was fabricated, and so that legitimacy was placed on him by those who fabricated him. And the rest of the people followed. When Bala became the face of the consortium, he was not elected. But he, because of his charisma and his wit and his intelligence, people saw in him the leader that they wanted. And so that's why I still think that it is not necessarily through election. It's only people who are carried away by this fallacy of democracy and that everybody must vote, everybody's opinion counts. No. It gets to a point where the opinion leaders are the faces and the minds of a movement. And so they speak for the people. And they carry that legitimacy for the people. Jarvis, we are talking of a war situation where the political system has failed. My big brother from Batibo died miserably in Yaoundé, the parliamentarian for Batibo, who was a member of the SDF, because the SDF has been destroyed by the people of the Northwest and the Southwest, either vomited or destroyed, or whatever adjective I can use. So we are talking of a system where the political institutions have failed. And now we are looking for, how do we create people with legitimacy to speak for the Anglophones? And Paddy Assanga has never been elected to speak his mind. But he remains an iconic and a lucid opinion leader in his own right. And he speaks what he speaks, and he has... One thing I observe is that at the start of this program, all three of us mentioned him, that we were delighted to be in his presence, which means he has been able to create a name for himself, and that name gives him legitimacy for those who look up to him. We will never have a forum of 8 million Anglophones sit together. No. But we can have legitimacy given to people to represent us. And that is why the Toronto come together, to me, very acceptable, very encouraging, because that is the beginning of better things. Let me go back to you, Jarvis. I told you here on this platform that about 2 months ago, I had the opportunity to visit a certain Julius Ayuk Tabe Seseko at the principal prison. And I spent 23 memorable minutes with him and Shufai Bless, the Boya-based lawyer who is one of the Nera 10. I spent 23 minutes with them. And what I left from that place, keeping in my mind, is people who have a conviction for something that they believe in, rightly or wrongly. And what Seseko told me is, if we had to leave this place on the terms of the regime, we would have left. But we will leave this place on our own terms. That shows you the fact that people are not yet ready. On your question, how ready are Anglophones? That shows you that there are some people who are not yet ready to see an end to this crisis, if it is not on the terms they have set.
So yeah,
there are some other people. Excuse me, Paddy.
Like you're saying, that Ashu has a different...
Good. That is why I am telling you, this extremism of opinions and positions is what would propagate and prolong this crisis. Let me tell you, one of the things I said at the beginning, the divisiveness or the divisive nature of Anglophones is a problem. And that is because the government has been able to put through the hot knife of division amongst Anglophones. I will not hide it here. I have followed a certain Emeritus Prime Minister Mafani Musonge, either condoning or inciting xenophobic statements against some other people.
No, we're not calling names now.
No. Even my own, no.
We should not call names.
No.
Take exceptions to
Jarvis, and I take responsibility. I have followed outings of prominent people within the regime who have used that knife of xenophobia, of division, because it comforts their positions within the system.
Not only him.
That is what I am saying. And I just use one. And there are many of them. And that is where I come in again, Jarvis. It is in the interest of the regime that the Northwest and the Southwest should forever stay apart. Nothing as brothers. And that is why when I hear Njini keeps talking pre-1961, he's still talking about people of Southern Cameroon. The government doesn't want to hear that. That's why the government does not want to even hear you talk about Nozo. They want to hear you talk about Northwest and Southwest regions as independent people. And that's why the government will do everything to put that knife, to maintain that sledgehammer, that hot knife of division, so that there should never be a state of Anglophone readiness. And that is why the Cardinal had it hot with AKEBA Patrick. AKEBA was not talking as AKEBA. He was talking for people. He was dancing to the tune of, drum beaters in the shadows, who were using him. And that is why I say, as long as we cannot have this notion of an Anglophone unity, we cannot talk about Anglophone readiness, because the notion of Anglophone is what is being combated seriously, so that never should they ever come again together as one. The Toronto Convention is a move in the right direction, but we need many more of such across the board, from homeland, from maybe you call it ground zero, to those in the diaspora, across the board, so that, as I said, we should not be talking of solving a crisis and then maintaining the status quo before 2016. We should be talking of solving a crisis and moving the identity of the Anglophone and the position of the Anglophone in this system forward.
Thank you. You wanted to react, because yes, when I talked about the fact that we've seen joint communique, joint consortium from civil society organizations, we've not seen that from political parties, leaders who are within the Anglophone regions as headquarters.
Well, let me evacuate the questions of political parties trying to come together. Every political party has a memoranda, and every political party has its own way of contesting. Remember that a certain SDF, what they did in Parliament, they were actually humiliated. When this thing started, the SDF was on the field in Boya and in Bamenda with all their... But what happened again?
I remember the chairman was in Moliko when he said, "You talk gun. If they give you gun, I shoot them."
So, and what happened? It's because we have to put things straight. These people who were mongering for war, they said, "No, it's not a political matter. Una SDF, una keep down a team for back." When you denigrate your own political institution, what do you have? They go and the people who were shooting at Bandam, they were not the military. But you know what Bandam has done for Batibo with his...
Bandam.
Yes, with his thing. So I just want to evacuate that question. And I understand from what premise Barrister Ashu is coming from. Barrister Ashu, Barrister Ashu is my brother from Santa. Barrister Ashu is talking because they are in the CPDM has an obese majority. That's why they are hanging on. But that is it. So when you go and he brings that topic, I would like to have that debate face to face with him so that he demonstrates to me that what I'm saying is not true. And this obese majority is gotten through fraudulent way. That division that has been created in the Northwest and Southwest region, it doesn't date from today. Remember that there are more political parties in the Southwest than in the Northwest. You had the Liberal Democratic Party, you had the Liberal Democratic Front, you have the PAP, you have many political parties that have been created in the Southwest region. Those parties were created to puncture the dynamic of a federation that was carried by the Social Democratic Front. That's why most of these satellite parties are created. You have in Cameroon 350 parties, which is an indicator that almost every village can have a political party. If you want to make some kind of mathematics. So you understand that the government doesn't have an interest that I don't think that the government doesn't want peace, but they don't have an interest to say that those Anglophones in the government, they don't have an interest that this thing should be resolved through the channel that would drag us, would put us as a bloc towards a federation, because they will become politically irrelevant. They will be sanctioned by way of vote, and they will drag it until this regime and take the most what they can take from this regime, and some of them will just walk away. So don't expect any government to come in and say, oh, we'll give you power, we'll give you peace, and so on. People went for campaign. The campaigns, despite insecurity, there is money. Being a parliamentarian, it's a prestigious job and a prestigious position in society where many people are dreaming of.
You said a while ago from the beginning of this program that Anglophones were very much ready to resolve this conflict. And we've seen how others are still lagging behind. And you said Atanganji and all other members of government who are Anglophones have a right like any other Anglophone.
But that's why we supported...
How do we unite all these voices to chart a common way forward? So that how do we unite this voice?
There are strong tools that can push forward this agenda. Media houses like yours. Then do some lobbying at the international level, like what the Cardinal did. You remember that the American Congress spoke of the Anglophone General Conference, European Parliament, every level-headed institution that knows that the idea of separating African nations or creating microstates is over, they supported it. But we sat back. One of the reasons why we are here in this country is because we are not going to make the errors of the tripartite. After the tripartite, we just sit and expect the government to implement it. We are coming to create alliance. We'll create a One Cameroon platform that will follow up on the national dialogue that they are hanging on, and then let them tell us the merits of the national dialogue. So we have to keep on saying that, okay, because we are in a political, the dynamics are shifting. So what we have to do is that we should keep on mobilizing. I like the fact that Bala went there. I was supposed to go to Canada, but I decided that going to Canada and adding my voice is not going to yield any food. Let me come here and tell people back home what is happening in the diaspora. Then he tells the diaspora the realities on the ground. Because we are the children of the Cardinals Conference, and I am insisting that the Cardinals' death was accelerated. You cannot kidnap somebody at that age. I have spent days and days with the Cardinal, and you deprive him from his job for 24 days. For 24 hours. That is pushing him to his early grave. I regret the fact that the Cardinal is not here today, because he is actually that person who guaranteed us that if we come and something happens to us, he was going to go to the street. That's how resolute that man was when they invited us for the Grand National Dialogue.
Njini Elvis, you talked about readiness, that Anglophones are, ready. What should we do as Anglophones to bring all the factions on board? Like those from the government bench. He talked about that we can use other instruments, lobbying and the rest. Do you think it can work? Where we have people who are still actively on government payroll, and that he would, pay the piper, determine the tune?
Well, Mr. TAH MAI JARVIS, what I will begin by saying is that when we talk about Anglophones being ready here, it doesn't mean that we shall expect all the 8 million Anglophones to stand up and say we are all ready before we move on. No, we need a certain quota of the people who are willing to work, to stand together, and then we push forward from there. That's why, again, when we refer ourselves to Toronto, I think there were about 300 persons there, I think, if I'm not mistaken, who gathered. If you take 300 persons as compared to 8 million, it's no figure. But we are not expecting all the 8 million to come together before we think that we are ready. So, talking about what it takes to bring people together, first thing I would still say is that maybe every single Southern Cameroonian should start by exercising his own conscience. He should feel for his people. If you feel for your people, if you turn back and see the suffering our people are going through, then maybe from there you can start thinking the right way and see the need why we should come together as a people. Second, there should be this idea of tolerance. We should learn to accept each other. We should learn to, first of all, see in each and every one of us a brother, a sister, and understand that when there is a problem within a family, we should sit together as a family and discuss it as a family. The neighbors should not hear us when we've not even started by discussing amongst ourselves. No, that is the problem, and that's where I think we need to begin from. We must understand that we are a people, we sit together as a people, and then we work from that perspective. Because like my brother was saying here, one thing is that the government is so happy when they see all the infighting, all the bickering within the Southern Cameroonians, because it only gives them more room to come in and do what? Continue to separate the people. And before I continue, I would like to just say something with respect to what Mr. Mr. Samah said here, not wanting to be a lawyer to Sisiku Ayuktabe. You said something about the fact that he may not be ready, or Anglophones are not ready, maybe because they didn't accept what the government.
That he's going to get
on his terms.
On his own terms. Good. But what I want to say is, maybe it would also be important to find out what were the terms proposed by the regime in place. Because rejecting the terms from the regime in place
could also be egoistic.
Yes. Accepting terms from, that's rejecting regimes from the terms does not necessarily mean that you are not ready for the dialogue. But it also depends what were proposed to you as terms for you to be released from jail.
Okay. Because but you agree that in negotiating table or in the terms you must not always be 100% the way
it can never be it can never be 100% what you want. That's why we talk about giving concessions. You must accept something and let go another. But the problem is this should be done therefore on the table, and not me coming at the background to see to negotiate with you one-on-one to say, Mr. TAH MAI JARVIS, this is what I'm proposing, accept it and I let you go. No. If the government has something to propose, let them come to the negotiation table and they say, okay, we have heard what you want. this is what we also want, this is what we have on the table, and then the two parties talk together, and then each person sees what he can accept and what he can let go. But going behind to table things to some people privately, maybe there's a problem, it could be a trap for those there, or maybe it's like maybe trying to buy their conscience so that at the end of the day, maybe they are set free, and then of course another Fumban is reenacted here where another the 8 million people find themselves in a worst case scenario again, and then we see how people to come back later on to fight for it.
Those people who went to Fumban are smarter than most of these people that you think. You're just saying Fumban. Fumban was not a total.
Mr. Paddy, what I'm saying is this. Fumban, at least there were some errors. And I'm saying here that we have to correct from the errors. And that's why from the beginning of this program, I said something. That I'm afraid that given this, the infighting we find within our own people, we may have the facts, but the fact that we have not sat down to put them straight, and we have not sat down to constitute that body that could legitimately represent the people and talk for them, we may eventually end up with something worse than what happened in Fumban. I am not like saying that Fumban was totally bad, but there were errors in Fumban that we need to correct. But we need to be careful as to who are the people who will eventually go out there to represent us again as a people and put forth their facts.
Innocent, how do we join all these people, bring them now on the table? As one common from Paddy says, we need at least 51% or a certain quota to move forward.
Yes, to me, my opinion, there are what they call opinion leaders. Okay. We don't need everybody to come together, because those who are the grassroots, anything that there are certain things that, like myself, I'm a teacher. There are things that if I tell my students, they will do it. Even in the quarter in Moyoka, if I go there are people, even those who carry arms. If I tell them not to carry arms, if I see my students say stop, they will stop. So there are opinion leaders. They don't need everybody. Immediately, as Ayok Tabe, I'm still insisting on him. Because if you can declare that this thing I use, we should stop this thing, everybody will stop. To me, yes, everybody. Because I remember when Ayok Tabe was there, and they are saying that those who started this thing, they are the military. Because Cameroonians, those guys went to the bush. Because in Malende they start going to the bush in Malende, which the military chased them away from their houses to go to the bush. Then now when Ayok Tabe was there, he was trying to.
The military says they were maintaining law and
order. We used the dialogue. Then after he was locked up, one pastor came and said, the kingdom of heaven of God suffer violence and holy violence taken by force. He was the person who declared war before the ambassador guys start fighting. Start fighting why? Because they discovered the military were raping people in the University of Boya, beating people in Moyoka, everywhere they were beating. In short, myself, I left Moyoka, thank God, that I succeeded to leave Moyoka and come to Boya. Then the day that Munya was also attacked, if I realized that there was no way for me, I had to run and come to Douala. Yes, so I'm saying that everybody, we need to reconcile.
How do we reconcile now?
To reconcile is first word. All of us should acknowledge that there is a problem. And the government in particular should acknowledge that there is a problem. And they should acknowledge that people who are dying are young Cameroonians, whether military or Amazonian, or innocent people. Then now, we should also know there must be give and take. You cannot have everything that you want. So we should come and we get to that concession, because maybe Ayoka, they can tell him that we release you and give you a position of a minister. You refuse. Because immediately as you are in the government, we are talking here, if we enter the government now, it will not be the same again. But the way you are talking will change. Yes, the way you are talking will change. Because you cannot buy the finger after to conclude. We need to look for those opinion leaders. They come together, even 100 of them, 200 of them. Those that can talk and people listen.
Like Paddy Assanga, yourself,
those that
Samah, Njini Elvis.
Those that have integrity. Those that have integrity. Yes.
Barrister Ashu replies, you have 4 panelists who are Anglophones, but it is not surprising that they can't agree. Disagreeing is in our DNA. That's why only elections can give us legitimacy. Without elections, we become dictators. In this case, you will represent only a few and not majority. I was coming to you, that's why I said, let me take the message of Barrister Ashu.
Let me remind big brother Arthur Julius that in our traditional African societies, our chiefs and fonds are not elected. In the typical grassroots land from where I come, our chiefs and fonds are not elected, but they confer power and they hold legitimacy and legality even without elections. And so there is the typical, the notion of constitutional democracy is is something that is forced down the throat of he who has power. And that is why you see the problem we have in this country is because some people have a privileged position of power, they keep saying our constitution says, our constitution tailored by them to suit their sizes and their egos. It's again, an aberration when I hear that is coming from Metro Julius Achu, whom I respect very much, thinking that it's only by democracy that we will have those that we want. I challenge him.
Mr. Achu Julius doesn't believe in what he's saying.
I like that, Paddy. And
just be frank.
And that's what comforts me, Paddy.
He knows that he's just saying those things.
So that Paddy, you are interrupting me. Let me just finish and
good in the ears.
I know what is in you.
Let him land.
Yes, and I know. What comforts me that you see me talking with loss, I mean, with less venom is because I believe what you have just said, that Metro Achu knows the truth and he doesn't believe in what he is typing. Maybe he thinks something else than his fingers
he
typing
types those things. That's to manipulate the opinion. And then keep the dream in the hands, in the ears.
Yes, and I think very sincerely, Anglophones would have to take what is theirs and make themselves ready. And they shouldn't allow their readiness to be determined by the regime.
Thank you.
They cannot. The regime will not ever encourage or foster unity between the Northwesterner and the Southwesterner.
Or tell you that, give you in advance.
No,
they try to ambush us during the Grand National
Dialogue. It doesn't work that way.
And that is where I like Dr. Monzo. The man was a visionary. He said, let's meet together and prepare because you end on the table.
And that is why I think
they took that man and said, Dr. Monzo, I got guns. Vilified him.
And you see, that's why I think that in addition to the Toronto Convention, I expect multiple actions of such nature to move on. We have gone and we should go past that stage where we think it is either my way or the highway. It is either the way I think as Ayabacho or as Baramak or as Tapang. It is either the way we think or nothing else. No, we have gone past that stage. And I think, in as much as I have some respect for Ayutabe Julius, that he could be able to garner support behind his ideology, whether wrong or right. But I still think it gets to a point where we have to negotiate with moderation. And I am sure it is their steadfastness and their resoluteness that is giving the government the pressure to even be able to allow us sit on this platform now and talk about federation. He has openly, declared here that he is a federalist. But that is something before 2016. You dare not say it.
We could not even have
you dare not even say it. The SDF has been saying it. No, the SDF was saying it. But you if you understand me,
when you speak like that, you give leverage to people like
that. Excuse me, Paddy. We followed a situation where the Minister of Communication at that time, the infamous Isa Chiruma, went on air and said federation should not be discussed.
But they have threatened people on
that is why I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The fact that such a threat doesn't hold again, or nobody even issues such a threat against such a discussion, is because the bar was raised too high by secessionists to open the way now for the state to now come. There is a saying that if you aim at the moon and you shoot at the moon and you can't attain the moon, at least you attain the skies. If, for those who are aiming for secession, if at the end they cannot succeed and they cannot have the independent Ambazonia that they dream for,
at what cost?
A federation
at the expense of who? Because they keep saying this rhetoric.
Will not be about that. And that is why I think.
No.
But I cannot round up when Paddy keeps getting back to his old self. Paddy, let me finish. I've traveled all the way from Fako. So I think, for the interest of this nation that all of us love, I have just one. There is one country that I belong to. Paddy, you are lucky that within any shake-up, you can take the next flight back. But I stay here. I don't even own a passport now. So I cannot even run. For the interest of this country that we jealously love and we want to maintain, it is the interest of the government to encourage Anglophones to sit and talk as one people.
Okay.
Rather than continue in this divisive game. As long as Anglophones can't sit and be ready and talk as one people, we may not see an end in sight of this crisis anytime soon. We would still suffer this
Paddy?
for a long time. No matter all the genuine efforts that you make, Agbobala makes, Munzu makes, Frundi makes, without a genuine Anglophone unity that will bring forth readiness,
Paddy,
we are still a long way from
we are out of time.
solution.
I'll be very brief.
Vice Ashu has been consistent and said he doesn't believe in what he said.
No, but that's true. That's true.
He is consistent because
very
he
consistent.
wants to maintain power, and that's what they say.
But he doesn't work under the
No,
government.
but he is a lawyer. He's a government lawyer.
Under the government
He's
to support the government.
Yes, there are barristers who are for pro-government and barristers who are not pro-government.
He's an independent person.
He's an independent person, but if he has his government contracts or whatsoever to go and defend whatsoever, that's his right. But what I'm saying is this: we need people like Dr. Monzo, who are international mediator, to go back and start doing the grassroots work that they were doing before.
Okay.
Go to our chiefs, go to Oku, go and all those youths, back riders, they should constitute themselves in syndicate and have a representation on the table. Students constitute themselves as syndicate, have a representation on the table. Taxi driver constitute themselves as syndicate, have a representation on the table. You can, so that by themselves, every people, doctors, they are already constituted, lawyers, they are teachers, they are already constituted. Every sphere of life should constitute themselves. And then we call a meeting. If the government doesn't back, let's see if the Amber Boys will come and kill us because we want to bring Anglophone together.
Okay.
That's what we should be doing. We should be very tactful. You don't need the government. You just need strategies, and we will get where we wanted to go. People were resistant to Toronto. Why did they go to Toronto? And you think that you want to organize a meeting in Mary Hotel or in Bui where Anglophones want to sit and call the elites of Bui and the children of Bui to come and sit and talk. Amber Boys will come and then they are terrorists. If the government comes today, it doesn't want, and then the cards are clear.
Okay.
And that's how you create the leverage, what you people call in French rapport de force. Thank you, Jarvis.
Thank you very much, Barrister Achu Julius. He just sent me something for a notification that he likes what, we disagree to agree. And as bona fide Anglophones, he says we must always disagree to agree.
He's my man. We'll meet very soon.
I'm sure that you have issued a debate challenge between Mr. Ashu and yourself.
Yes.
I'm sure if next week if you are still around, and also Samah if you are still around, I'm sure Mr. Ashu may want to take that beat so that we have a
I know
debate
he is somebody who doesn't run debate.
Thank you very much.
He's very civilized.
No, he is always on the and tell me last time he debated with you. Yes. So thank you very much for coming. Njini, thank you for coming. Your last word?
It's been a pleasure. And my last words, I will simply call on our people to be level-headed and actually think for the general good of every other person and see how we can come together so that we discuss as a family, we discuss as a people, and set for the pace for a lasting solution to the crisis.
Thank you very much for coming, Paddy Assanga.
The pleasure is mine. I want to encourage you people to do the good work. You are the leaders of tomorrow. Your career is shining. I think we are looking for brighter days for young journalists like you.
Thank you very much for coming, Samah Abang. Your name always confused me. Thank you very much.
Well, you may need tutorial classes to be able to pronounce it well. It's my pleasure to have shared the same platform with Paddy, with Njini, and with the other co-panelists. I'll always be available. I'll always be on point. And again, I add my voice to the challenge thrown by Paddy. Let's take a rendezvous for Sunday with Barrister Achu Julius.
Just the three. Okay.
Three of us.
Thank you for coming, Nonsense, briefly.
Okay.
No, just the three, so that we'll have enough time.
Okay.
Thank you for inviting me. And I want to also say that you know that what is happening in the Southwest and Northwest, there's a lot of propaganda.
Okay.
Because when I was passing through the military court, I saw 7 bees that were arrested because they were doing kidnapping in Boya. So most of those kidnappings, we should not say that it's only the Amber Boys and some thieves in Douala and Babusan, they have run now, they are there doing bad things.
Okay.
So we should not put it on our brothers and sisters who are over there.
Thank you all for watching. No matter the matter, what matter is your matter. No matter the matter, what matter is your matter. And what should matter for you is that the truth is God. You can only kill the teller and not the truth. When you kill the teller, the truth remains to haunt you. My name is TAH MAI JARVIS from Cameroon's economic capital, Feng Gudong, Bange, Kotobona Musadi. Bye-bye.
Let me use your